Alright, time to add another building to my sprawling map. Let's look at this section right here. So when I was modeling the roads, there were certain parts of the map where I had kind of a basic idea of what sort of buildings I wanted to have in there. But in this section, I really had no idea. I was just making some streets that I thought looked interesting with no thought about what was going to go in between. So I ended up with a very irregular looking section. So on the right side, we have this big rectangular portion, which is about something that you could fit a traditional building inside. But then we have all this other mess. And this is very irregular, and it's almost too narrow to make a real building out of. So I'm thinking something medieval, maybe? You know, a lot of these old cities have remnants of their ancient architecture, which is very claustrophobic and oddly angled by today's standards, but it's really cool looking. Then for this big long rectangular portion here, I'm thinking something more like a Victorian sort of industrial workhouse that got repurposed later on into some kind of commercial space or something. And they probably added a bunch of really ugly fluorescent lights on the inside so that it could stay open late at night. Alright, so now in Blender, I'm going to go to make a copy of my streets and just select the part of the map that I'm going to fill out. And just delete the rest, because this is all we need to start with. So now all we have is like the perimeter or the outline of that area, and we're just going to extrude it up a little bit and make a sidewalk out of it. And then when I go into Unity, I see that the curb is way too tall. And this is something I have to do a lot, especially at the beginning, is you want to import the model into Unity as soon as you can and just go back and forth while you're working on it to make sure that everything is actually the right scale. Because it's hard to tell in Blender what the scale should be because you can't see what it looks like in the actual game. So you see we go back into Blender and then we're going to make some adjustments to the height, just keep going back and forth until it looks just right. Then once we figure out the height, we're going to extrude it inward to make the top of the sidewalk. Alright, that looks good, but I think there's probably too much sidewalk, so I'm going to trim some of this back here. We don't need all of this. Yeah, I mean, if I were like a real artist, I would have made some kind of concept art and, planned things out ahead of time instead of just making it up as I go along, but, you know. So now for the walls, I went to textures.com as usual, and I found four nice looking samples that I put together in one image to make it sort of a miniature texture atlas. Now you can see one of the ones, the pattern on the bottom right corner doesn't really match the colors of the other three. So it's really easy to fix that though. I'm just going to sample some colors and kind of multiply that color on. And when you're making this stylized textures, it's important to try to match the overall tone, the look of the colors. Alright, now we're going to start the building with the very simplest thing you can think of, just a little tiny post in the corner, just to make it about 1 story tall. And to gauge the scale, to test the scale, we're going to bring it into Unity and we're going to drag in good old train conductor Dan, who's just a regular train conductor and not at all suspicious. Our good conductor, being a well-average height and exemplary of his fellow men, makes a good model to gauge the height of a building as anyone else in our beloved city. Alright, so once we get it to the height we want, then we're going to do the UV unwrap. So for here, we just select each side of the post, which is just a rectangle, and then we sort of drag it and scale it here until it's, covering the part of the texture that we want to appear on that face. It's perfect! It's adequate. It's perfectly adequate! And let's hope it is, because I'm gonna copy and paste it over and over and over again. Yes, just like in the real world, it's a lot easier to make the same thing over and over again than lots of different things. So you'll see buildings are often very modular. Alright, now we're gonna go up and add a plane. There it is. And this is going to be a chunk of wall. So I come over here and stretch it out to fit in between two of these posts here. Alright, and then we unwrap this little guy too. Then we copy it and copy it and copy it over and over and over and over again.
In copies.
Let's look in Unity. Wow, that's looking pretty good. I think so. Got the walls all the way around. And, well, sort of. Alright, and for the next floor, we're gonna do something special. We're gonna add a cylindrical column on each side and make a nice arched window right in the middle. Now, of course, there's no windows on the first floor because everybody is afraid that people would break in and steal stuff. But on the second floor, we're gonna let a little bit of light in.
So let me guess, now you're gonna copy and paste it over and over and over again, aren't you?
Gosh darn it, am I really so pre-diddly-ictable? Oh heck yeah, I'm gonna copy and paste the mess out of this modular component. I'm gonna copy, and then I'm gonna paste. Wait, what are we doing? Oh, we're done now. Okay, great. So if these windows look familiar, it's because I'm reusing the same texture from Mr. Caloglius's mansion, which I made in a different video. And here's what it looks like from far away, except in the finished game, of course, you won't be able to see the part that's underground. But this, if you recall, was the easy part, the easy, straightforward, rectangular building. Next video, we're gonna start the not so easy part.